Long before the great empires of Europe ruled the waves, a very different kind of global network was taking shape. This wasn't a kingdom with loyal subjects. It was a sprawling confederacy of outlaws, an empire of criminal havens built on plunder, and a radical idea of freedom. It was the Pirate Republic. And at its peak, it didn't just annoy the world's superpowers, it brought them to their knees. Not with massive armies, but with cannons, cutlasses, and a rebellious vision for a new way of life. So how does something like a pirate empire even begin? Well, our story kicks off ironically with the end of a massive war.
I say war.
When the War of the Spanish Succession wrapped up in 1714, the great European navies suddenly didn't need huge fleets anymore. This meant tens of thousands of highly trained, battle-tested sailors and privateers who were essentially legal. Government-sponsored pirates found themselves jobless and dumped ashore with few good options. What do you do when you're reskilled at naval combat but facing poverty on land or abuse on a merchant ship? For thousands of these men, the choice was clear. They turned their deadly talents against the very empires that had just cast them aside, targeting the rich trade routes that were the economic lifelines of the colonies. Their first hideouts were remote islands, perfectly located for raiding, but just outside the reach of the law. Tortuga, a small island off the coast of Hispaniola, became an early hotspot for French and English buccaneers. But the true heart of this emerging pirate empire would soon beat in the Bahamas, on an island called New Providence. It was here, in the port of Nassau, that a real pirate republic would be born. By 1715, Nassau was the undisputed capital of this outlaw nation. The British had basically abandoned the port after it was repeatedly sacked by the French and Spanish, leaving a power vacuum. The pirates happily filled it. Nassau's harbor was a perfect natural fortress. Its shallow waters let the pirates' swift, smaller ships glide in, while keeping the massive, deep-holed warships of the Royal Navy stuck out at sea. At its height, the pirate population in Nassau swelled to over 1,000, easily outnumbering the handful of official residents who remained. This was the time of legends. The clever strategist Benjamin Hornigold, the terrifying Blackbeard, the flashy Calico Jack Rackham, and the incredibly successful Black Sam Bellamy. Together, they were part of a loose but formidable alliance known as the Flying Gang. But Nassau wasn't just a place to crash. It was a functioning society with its own black market economy where stolen goods were sold to shady merchants, completely undercutting legitimate trade. More importantly, the pirates lived by their own democratic rules, famously known as the Pirate Code. On their ships, captains were elected, loot was divided into pre-agreed shares, and every single man had a vote. In an era of kings and rigid social classes, this was nothing short of revolutionary. Their success was mind-boggling. They wreaked havoc on the triangular trade, seizing ships loaded with sugar, tobacco, gold, and enslaved people. The constant threat of attack caused shipping insurance rates to skyrocket and nearly paralyzed commerce in the Caribbean, dealing a heavy blow to the economies of Europe, an entire republic run by criminals. This was simply too big and too disruptive for the colonial powers to ignore. Plantation owners and merchants were screaming for protection, and finally, the British Crown decided to act. The beginning of the end arrived in 1718, and it arrived in the form of one man, Captain Woodes Rogers, Atofisnels. Former privateer appointed as the new governor of the Bahamas, he didn't just bring warships. He brought a brilliant weapon, the King's Pardon. It was a simple offer. Surrender by the deadline, and all your past crimes would be forgiven. This single offer shattered the pirate brotherhood. Many, including one of the Republic's founders, Benjamin Hornigold, took the deal. Hornigold even flipped, becoming a pirate hunter for the governor and tracking down his old comrades. Others, like the defiant Charles Vane, chose to fight. He famously escaped Nassau by setting a ship on fire and sending it careening toward Rogers' fleet. Blackbeard fled north, but his luck ran out later that year when he was killed in a bloody showdown off the coast of North Carolina. With Nassau retaken and its forts rebuilt, the pirates lost their most critical safe haven. The Royal Navy, now beefed up and funded specifically to crush the pirate threat, hunted down the remaining crews with brutal efficiency. Special courts were set up for swift trials, and public hangings became grim warnings to anyone else dreaming of a life under the black flag. Within a decade, the golden age of piracy was over. The lives of these pirates, from Blackbeard's reign of terror to the incredible true story of Anne Bonny, are packed with betrayal, rebellion, and wild adventure. Who's your favorite pirate? Let us know in the comments which story you want us to tackle next. And if you enjoy exploring these hidden corners of history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Though their outlaw empire barely lasted a decade, the pirates of this era left a permanent mark on history. They forced powerful nations to build professional navies and extend their rule of law across the entire globe. They also created a powerful mythos story of freedom and fighting against tyranny that still captures our imagination centuries later. For a brief, dazzling moment, their network of havens wasn't just a criminal enterprise. It was a revolutionary experiment in self-rule that challenged the very idea of empire.